Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. Let's take a look at what's in store today. So today we're finally going to be attempting the Inferno 5 Gauntlet. Now as you can see here, my combat rating is 48,352, so this is above the recommended combat rating of 46,194 Gauntlet 5. Then the difficulty range, this obviously is affected by how many people are in the team. So if you go in with a full raid, you're going to have higher difficulty than if you go in with, say, 4 people that have the combat rating or higher combat rating than what is necessary. So this was actually our third attempt in total to complete Gauntlet 5. We had a little bit of a nightmare to begin with, and we're also helping one of our warband guys who's just recently come back to the game. So most of you will know Padge from a lot of my older videos. He was actually my first ever friend in Diablo Immortal, the first person that I made friends with and met in the Mad King's Breach dungeon back in the day. That's how long ago we made friends. I think it's almost it'll be like 3 years this year that we've been friends, and even though he'd quit playing for a while, we did stay in touch on socials. So I'm really happy to have him back in the game. So we're helping boost him through this and hopefully boost his levels, as he had quite a lot of catching up to do with regards to the levels in game and where he was at when he came back last week. So anyway, that is the first boss taken down. So with Gauntlet 5, there are 4 bosses in total. And I can tell you now, we didn't really have much difficulty with the first 2 bosses. It was more the second 2 due to the mechanics and obviously needing a lot of DPS to complete this. Now, I went with DPS over survivability for myself, just to make sure that I could do as much damage as possible to help make the raid go faster. So when I checked this build, my damage per second sustained over a minute was about 4.75 million per second. So this was really important to make sure that we had high DPS for the gauntlet. Obviously, you need to ensure that you can take the bosses down as quickly as possible so that you can actually survive before the boss gets enraged. Because as soon as they hit that enraged stage, it can be really difficult to do, especially when you get to the last boss of the gauntlet. So as you can see, it's only just over 2 minutes, or it's about 2 minutes that we've taken so far, and we've taken down the first 2 bosses for the gauntlet. So really nice damage so far. I think actually, looking at the timer on the side, even though the video has been 2 minutes, it looks like actually it's only 1.5 minutes that we've taken on the bosses. So I didn't actually notice that when I was in the raid. But it does have a timer, as you can see on the tooltip on the left. So if you're not checking out everyone's DPS, you can actually check out how long it's taken you for the gauntlet so far. So yeah, under 2 minutes for the first 2 bosses, and now we are on Vogmarik, the Tormentor. And again, this one is a little bit tricky because there's quite a lot of mechanics, and some of them are slightly different to the main raid. So that mechanic just there, that works slightly different to what it does in the normal Haliki raid for this boss. Now, we did change up our team a little bit for this. A couple of people left the raid, and we grabbed a couple of other players from our clan to help out, people that done Gauntlet before previously and that were similar combat rating to myself, or similar resonance to myself as well, as we thought this would get it done a little bit quicker. And people that have obviously done the Gauntlet already have a knowledge of what needs to be done, what attacks to avoid, etc. So there are some attacks that are a little bit tricky to avoid, especially as Wizard. Like, Wizard really lacks movement unless you're using teleport, and of course if you use teleport in your build, you're then going to be lacking damage on some of the other skills. Now I could have gone in with the spam build, but I find that so difficult to play on phone, as I've said before, so difficult to play for a long period of time as well. And a lot of the time on a phone screen, it doesn't actually register those clicks when you're tapping away at the screen for such a long period of time. So I kind of put this build together. It's a little bit similar to what I use in Vanguard as well. I have quite a lot of success with this in Vanguard. It makes it really quick to complete, and it's using the Arcane Torrent. We've got Lightning Nova, we've got Disintegrate, and we've obviously got Slow Time as well. But yeah, this works for me a little bit easier on phone than the spam builds, and I kind of just threw this together pretty quickly. I probably could have got higher DPS if I'd had more time, but I spent the day out most of the day out in the city is what I'm trying to say. Spent most of the day out in the city today, so I didn't really get a chance to work on my build specifically for this. So I kind of just went with what I know and what I find easier to play. Sometimes it's not always about going with the high damage builds either. As I said, for this, yes, I was DPS, but I've got teammates here that have gone with more survivability. But unfortunately, obviously, with the fact that we had ice armor and the bone armor essences nerfed last year, this kind of makes these builds or these skills not really much use in raids anymore, and not much use in Gauntlet, whereas previously it was really important to go in with ice armor, and quite often we'd go with a necromancer or a couple of necromancers with bone armor as well, just to give that survivability to all of the team. But as I said, since those essences were nerfed, it's not really any point using that. I could have gone in with ice armor, but it's not going to stop me dying. It's just going to take hits for a certain amount, which is just not really worth it. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance, this last boss, I will die a lot in this raid. I had a lot of trouble with this boss. This is where we got stuck. Like, each time we tried this, it was the last boss that we got stuck at, and the first 2 times it did in rage. There's quite a lot of different mechanics going on in this raid. You've got floor attacks to avoid, you've got the chains. So when the chains hit, or when the chains are on you and another player, there's a couple of things you need to do. So the first thing is run away from that player to give yourself distance, but also use those magma spikes to actually break those chains. So that one is one to really look out for in this raid. It can be quite difficult to avoid. So these spikes that are coming up now from the ground, those are the ones you need to use to break the chains if you do get attached to another teammate with that. So that is one thing that you need to avoid, one attack you need to avoid. And that one can actually do quite a lot of damage. It's pretty much an instant kill for me. The next one is the beams. So you have the beams that go on the floor. They, again, do a lot of damage. And you get beams that literally focus specifically on you. And to stop getting hit by those, you once again need to stand in front of the spikes. And then you have the floor attacks, which these killed me quite a lot. They're really hard to avoid. They cover far too much of the ground. And unless you're using something like teleport, daring swing, anything like that, it's really hard to actually make it across the map in time to avoid those hits. And like I said, Wizard really does lack movement in these builds unless you go in with teleport, which, as I said, you can't be DPS and then be using things like teleport in your build. And I was kind of needed as DPS in this raid, so I didn't really have much choice to go in with a build that had more survivability or more movement to it. But as you can see here, the floor attacks are just such a nightmare. Oh my god, I was getting so enraged at this. The boss didn't need to enrage because I was already enraged. So you can see now that I'm down again, I have 1 remaining self-revive, and I had 4 team revives, but thankfully Game Zone did revive me there. But I was getting really frustrated at this. Dying so much is just annoying. I need to work on my armor maybe. My armor is already well over 5k. My resistance is quite low, but I don't think that that would make such a difference in this. I feel like my armor is maybe what I need more of. But yeah, I was getting really frustrated at how heavy these hits were, especially as it's Inferno 5 and not Inferno 6. And as I was obviously quite high over the recommended combat rating, it was super frustrating. So yeah, this last boss is definitely the one to watch out for in the Inferno 5 Gauntlet. I know that some of you are going to come at me in the comments like, oh, I completed this really easily. Depending on what class you play, yeah, it will be easier for some than others. I would say that Crusader does quite well in this. Obviously, they have quite a lot of defensive skills and quite high damage skills. Crusaders are pretty badass at the moment. I'd say that it's one of the classes that is in a really good position along with Necromancer. I think probably those 2 classes are probably the top currently in Diablo for damage and obviously survivability as well. In PvP and PvE, those classes are both doing really well from what I've seen and what I've experienced all in all. So yeah, if you're doing this and you're someone that does class change a lot, I'd probably recommend going in as one of those classes. Probably Crusader over Necromancer, because they do have quite a lot of skills that can be quite beneficial to actually surviving and getting through these raids. So yeah, out of all of the bosses, this one was the one that I was finding most frustrating. And you can see here, like, for some reason I'm standing right next to the boss, but it's not coming up with the health, so none of my hits were registering. So I don't really get what happens with this raid sometimes. It's a little bit frustrating with that as well, because obviously the whole time I'm standing there and my hits aren't registering, that's a lot of like damage that we're then not doing to this boss. So yeah, Mulgaist the Molten, definitely definitely the hardest boss in this gauntlet. This attack as well, I noticed is something that I spoke to GameZone about, as he sent us a screenshot of this attack, and on mobile it's actually really difficult to see which areas of the ground are highlighted compared to on mobile. On mobile it's much more difficult to see how or where those big ground attacks are compared to on PC. On PC the clarity is much more obvious of where each segment is when it does that ground attack. So I definitely say, once again, PC players have the upper hand, which is wild to me considering Diablo Immortal was originally meant to be a mobile only game, but there we go. You can also see at this point in the raid my phone battery was dying, and that's because obviously bashing buttons for well over an hour trying to get this completed made my phone pretty pissed off with me. My phone was getting really hot at this point as well. I'm actually surprised I didn't get any lag. That's iPhone 15 Pro for you. Just shout out there to iPhone 15. I was playing on iPhone 12 for a long time before I upgraded my phone last year, and honestly it's made such a difference for me. I don't get any lag anymore really, unless my phone is on really low power, unless I'm playing everything with my phone in low power mode. I don't really get any lag anymore like a lot of players do. So yeah, it was much easier to complete this now compared to when I had my old phone. So you can see I'm now down and I've got no self revives left at all. I've got 3 team revives left, and it looks like my teammate here is about to revive me. So yeah, really grateful for that. But as you can see, I'm going to die again pretty quickly because there's a million attacks I'm trying to avoid, and I have no health potions left. And it didn't matter where I went, like everything was against me here. There's ground attacks there that I can't avoid because they're all over the whole ground right near me. So yeah, I got really pissed off with this last raid. I just feel like Wizard in general hasn't been in a good place in Diablo Immortal for quite some time, and I know that you can play these spam builds. That's all good and well if you have a controller and if you play on PC, but Wizard's DPS still isn't as high as a lot of other classes. I think it needs a huge look at Wizard as a whole to improve this class. So this was the result overall. It wasn't completely awful. I ranked 3rd for damage, so I'm quite happy with that, especially considering how much time I spent laying on the ground in the last raid. But yeah, we managed to complete it in 10 minutes and 38 seconds in total. So let's take a look at what we got for completing this as well. So let's take a look at the gear that we found in the gauntlet and see if we have any upgrades here. It does say that we have some upgrades. So the wrist that we've got Angmit's Agony. This one is actually one that I need, so that one is helpful. And we've got Shalbass. I won't be using that one. And as you can see, there's no upgrades on the legendary gear, unfortunately. So it looks like we got this offhand, which is lower combat rating than what I've got equipped currently. It looks like we also got this chest, again lower combat rating than what I'm using, and then this helm, which is, this one's actually better with regards to the combat rating and the attributes, but the actual magic on this isn't what I have been looking for. So you can see currently I have the bonus on Arcane Torrent, which I use, which is really powerful when you're using that skill. Having the Eternal affix on Arcane Torrent is really, really good. If you can get 4 pieces of that, then even better, but I don't like to lose that from my gear because I find it's really actually quite OP in my builds when I use that, and I do use Arcane Torrent quite a lot in my PvE builds. So that is the gear that I found from the gauntlet. Let's take a look now at the cosmetic that we gained. I can't remember what it is called, but it is not that cute. Was it this one? I think it's this one maybe. I don't know, it doesn't say which one you get it on. Like it doesn't say what this is from, but I'm pretty sure this was the cosmetic from it, which yeah, it's kind of ugly, so I probably won't be using that. But yeah, that's what you get for completing the gauntlet, and it took 3 attempts, as I said at the start. It was quite difficult to do this, but we did get it done eventually. And yeah, if you want to know the build that I used for it, let me know in the comments and I will make a video for that as well. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Official Diablo partner.